In this first podcast from Ion Consulting International, I want to set the main framework of the podcasts that follow. And I think we are at an extraordinarily fascinating moment in the history of knowledge. I've called it a Newtonian moment. If one goes back in the history of understanding how the universe works, there's a very fascinating period in 1640, 1650, 1660, 350 years or so ago, in which what had been called philosophy, the way people could think about how the world worked, began to be called experimental philosophy. And in 1660, something was founded that was called the College for the Promoting of Physico-Mathematical Experimental Learning. What a wonderful title. And in 1661, it acquired the patronage of Charles II, the King of England at the time, and it became the Royal Society, the oldest and perhaps most prestigious scientific body in the world still. It was a huge shift. Newton described the laws of energy, the three Newtonian principles. Now, I think we're at a moment of that kind in our understanding of human behavior. Do you know, in the 20th century, there were more than 50 main theoretical systems in psychology. Huge amount of knowledge, huge amount of journals, people acquiring reputations for one set of ideas, but no agreements among psychologists as to what a person really is. No underlying unifying principle in their thinking. And actually the same is true of organizational theory. Enormous amount of teaching in business schools of organizational theory, but actually no shared agreement as to what an organization actually is. Now, I think this is a Newtonian moment because in the last 20 years, the modern brain sciences are telling us that we human beings are fundamentally energy systems, not psychological systems. Our individual psychology comes from the way our brains have been organized by the flow of energy that's created by the external as well as the internal world. Our brains are organized individually. We each have a different operating system. No wonder management of people is such a complex job, because everybody who walks into the organization every day or is sitting at their desk at home behind a Zoom screen or is writing memos, everybody has a slightly different operating system. It may be a shared cultural one, or it may be cross-cultural. It may be well imbued with the organizational values. It may come with quite different set of values. What is this extraordinary thing called a human being? Well, the modern brain sciences are telling us we are essentially, like the rest of the physical world, energy systems, not psychological systems. Our individual psychology comes from the way the brain has organized itself around the flow of energy. Now, of course, it needs food, physical energy, and oxygen. Glucose and oxygen are the fundamentals. But how then does it get organized? It gets organized through the emotional system. Isn't that strange? A word, emotional, that's often used disparagingly. Oh, don't be emotional. Oh, she's just being emotional. Oh, we don't do emotions around here. Actually, if you hyphenate that word, E-motion, we can see that embedded in that word is that energy produces action. This series is about exploring how this new knowledge, this Newtonian moment, can be taken from the neuroscience labs around the world and put into creating huge value inside organizations for all of us interested in human behavior, HR specialists, leaders, team leaders, chief executives, organizational design people, executive coaches, anybody fascinated by how much time we spend in organizations, and could we enjoy it and give of our best. Come to our next podcast in a week's time. Thank you.